I, 31 female, am married to my husband, 31 male, who we will call Scott. So Scott is AP security, secret shopper, at a big corporate store. He goes to work looking pretty fresh, smelling good. He's a good-looking guy, so he gets compliments and whatnot, which makes him feel good, and I totally get it. They can look but don't touch, you know. Anyways, so there's this female coworker who we will call Karen, 37 female, and Karen is married. The other day Karen went on her secondary Facebook she uses for online gaming messages my husband. It started off innocent at first, asking things like, "Is this Scott the guy from work?" and turned into saying things like, "Hi Scotty," smiling face with smiling eyes, he doesn't go by Scotty, and then asking for relationship advice about some other guy at work who is not Karen's husband. So one night she messaged him, and out of the blue she asks my husband if he would like to make $30 an hour being someone's side piece. He immediately showed me and involved me in the conversation. As the conversation continued, it became clear she was talking about herself. That totally caught me by surprise, because who does that? My husband tried to nicely tell her that's not the way to handle things and she needs to fix her relationship. He also said some stuff that I was not at all happy with, like that he understood her frustration. This caused a fight between us, and I ended up taking upon myself to message her and ream her out for doing that, knowing he's married. She wasn't at all remorseful and made excuses. She acknowledged in previous texts to my husband that he has a wife, so she knew. He also immediately reported this to HR, as this is sexual harassment, however they are dragging their feet. In the meantime she ended up approaching him again at work, asking him why he showed me, his wife, the messages. He blew her off basically and said obviously she was going to see them and he just doesn't want this to be awkward. He told me this, and I told him it's going to awkward no matter what, and he needs to be more clear with Karen about wanting nothing to do with this. Fast forward another week. She messaged him again at work this time. She tells him come to the back room, a place she knew there wouldn't be anyone around. He said why. She never answered him via text. Later that night she walks up to him asking him to delete that last text thread. This is where he finally told her off and basically said this BS has to stop. I'm not dishonest with my wife and this isn't going to happen. She walked away and pretends everything is peachy the next time she sees me, smiles and tries to say hi. Here's where I become the asshole. I don't think it's very fair to her husband to not know and just be with someone who does this kind of thing. So, I googled and found him and his phone number, and then I called him and told him the whole story. Edit to address the comments of me being too harsh on my husband. In their first conversation she ended up feeling stupid and tried to backtrack and say oh, I'm sorry. My husband responded with don't be sorry. This is what really made me upset, because not only did he excuse her behavior but said he understood her that I saw red. He admitted this was a poor way to handle things and is fully supportive of me being petty. Edit to add my conversation with Karen's husband since it's getting lost in the sea of comments lol, copied from my previous comment. Me, is this so and so? Him, yes, me, is your wife Karen? Stupid face, him, yes, me, okay Steve, fake name, you don't know me but I think you should know this, your wife asked my husband to be her side piece for money at work, him, what really? Wow, okay, me. Goes into detail about how I know it's his wife, her gaming profile name etc. I'm really sorry to be the one to tell you but I think you need to know this is how she acts at work. Him, what's your husband's name? Me, I'd like to keep him out of this because it was her who approached him multiple times and isn't taking the hint. Again I'm sorry. Him, no, thank you, I would rather know. Me, good luck Steve. Bye. Him, bye, thank you. This is the basic tone of it, with some of the words maybe being slightly different. Edit to add some further context to the situation. A friend told to me that it's worth mentioning that my husband and I have a young family. Our children are 3 years old and 8 months, and I am extremely protective of them. This woman in my opinion tried to sabotage that happy family picture. My mother is a fucking cunt. Literally cheats on every man she's been with, has treated me, her oldest, she had 25 like a tool, against my father, since day one. We've been no contact since my 22nd birthday, when she stole $2K from me, making me homeless for a time. Her crimes are innumerable, and she's never been a drinker or used drugs. Just a shit human. She cheated on my father with a 16 years old, and married the boy. Then cheated on him with a boy I went to high school with. I say this because it's well known in the family. To the main story. Few years ago I was getting messages from a random man, that claimed to be dating my mother. He said things like, "Your mother cares about you, hopes you finally got the help you needed for your drug addiction." I had been clean since 19 years old. She also had a FB account with another man's picture, he didn't know about. I told both men what was happening. Something similar to this has happened more than once, over the years. Cue the petty revenge. I decided to contact my siblings and tell them what mom was up to, ask them to send me screenshots of her double talk convos. We now have an entire drive folder that has been shared to over a dozen men. My mother has been single since 2018, even left the state so as to keep herself distanced from us. I heard she was staying with her mother, so I added grams to the drive too. Even her own mom is snitching on her. Now, I can't describe the joy this simple act of exposing my mother has caused. My father thinks it's hilarious. TLDR, my mom is a POS, skank, and liar, getting exposed via Google Drive by her kids and mom. Edit, everyone in the comments obsessed with how nasty this woman is for diddling teenagers, gross, but legal at that time/place. In high school, I was a senior and she was a junior. Tops of our classes. You know, standard good kids, and I was like Wally Cleaver. Her family was very religious, think of the Flanderses. While her folks were weary of her dating, they loved and trusted me and invited me over to their house frequently. It should be noted that all during the time we dated, we never had sex. Her folks had the talk with both of us and were concerned that their baby girl would end up preggers, but I loved her enough to respect her folks' wishes and never made her uncomfortable. Had it played out right, I could have seen us being married. Fast forward to after my graduation. After a few months, we still lived in the same town, and she was to start in my college in the fall. She up and dumps me. Later I heard that she'd been cheating on me and he was going to take her to her senior prom, even though we planned to do so. She told her folks I dumped her after finding someone else. Several months later, I spot her and her mom shopping in the local grocery store. They don't see me. I had a hat and grew a nice beard and kept a safe distance, and I didn't want to get into a conversation with the mom who obviously had been told I'd done her daughter wrong, so I waited until they left their cart unattended, and placed a box of condoms and lube in their buggy and covered them. When they got to the checkout and her mom started taking items out of the cart, she found them. And promptly flipped out. It was like watching the mom in Carrie, all the while the ex was, BBBB, but those aren't mine. And the mom was, how long have you been having sex? Who is it with? And the shoppers around them snickering as hard as I was. Bonus, I went through my checkout fast, and got to my car to watch the show continue. The mom was still fussing on the way to the car and, as they drove off, I could still see her wagging finger. Back in college I was roommates with a guy in my same group of friends. He came from a rich background and had a very entitled attitude. Over the couple of years that we were roommates he stole food, weed, beer and possibly money from me and our other roommates. He used to go out, get drunk, come home and raid the fridge in the middle of the night. Our last semester our group of friends went to a house party where he got drunk and was being his usual douchebag. He got into a verbal argument with my GF and we ended up leaving the party. Back at my apartment I had 2 restripes left. I drank one but I knew I would wake up the next day and the other one would be gone. I carefully opened the bottle without bending the cap too much, poured 3/4s of beer down the kitchen drain, face screaming in fear I know, and proceeded to empty my bladder until I refilled the red stripe bottle. Put the cap back on, bottle back in the fridge and went to bed. Next morning there was the empty bottle next to the one I had thrown out a few hours before. This was years ago, I was probably about 10, but it's still one of my favorite memories of this woman. My dad's wife has always been the definition of horrible stepmom. I met her as a toddler and even at that age she would do everything she would to make me feel unwanted by talking crap about me and my family. She got worse over the years, not getting into it, but it was rough. She always had to make sure I knew I wasn't wanted. One day we were at a party filled with people I never met and they weren't family, I assume it was a coworkers or something. She had struck up a conversation and was bonding with someone new when I happened to hear her mention the number of kids she had that I corrected her and she had to backtrack and say she was talking about the kid she birthed. The lady she was talking to noped out of there so quick, it was hilarious. I got in trouble but considering I'm still laughing to this day, super worth it. I'm not sure if this is petty revenge or not but it was petty and it feels like revenge. Edit, this happened years ago. And if this same scenario ever happened again I would never have allowed it to continue the way it did. I was frustrated and upset and at the time felt like his own actions caused this, so my husband can be and often is a dick. He often makes assumptions about my actions. Usually negative assumptions. So the bathroom was pretty gross. And so I decided I was going to spring clean the bathroom. And I'm meaning toothbrush cleaning cracks and crevices. Usually I have a few old cleaning toothbrushes but they were missing. No biggie I thought, I'll just use my husband's old flattened gross looking toothbrush. I had already bought him a brand new one a few days prior so I thought it was time to downgrade his toothbrush. So that's what I did. I used that toothbrush in all sorts of gross spaces. I just happened to be rinsing his toothbrush out after having cleaned the toilet when he came into the room. He got really angry and asked me why I had his toothbrush in my hand. I was like, well, I bought you a new. He interrupted and yelled, put it back. I tried to persist in explaining and said, but that's my toothbrush. Me, well, yes, I know, but put it back, I would put it back but that's my toothbrush. Don't touch my toothbrush. Me, well, yeah but put it back. By this point, I was flustered, upset, and angry. Like why can't he just let me explain? He already bought him a new brush. I already used this one on the floor, bathtub, sink and toilet. But every time I tried to tell him this he would interrupt. Frankly I had already told him on multiple occasions to please let me at least tell him what I was doing and to please stop interrupting me and never letting me get a word in. I could have yelled and interrupted him like he kept doing to me. But instead I gave him what he wanted. And I was like, okay. Fine. I put his toothbrush back and walked out, F him. He got what he asked for. Plus, I don't understand why he acted that way. If the roles were reversed and I walked in with him rinsing my toothbrush, would have asked. What are you doing with my toothbrush? And then I would have listened to his answer. And when he said, oh, I got you a new toothbrush. I used this old one to clean. I then would have said, oh. Okay. Thanks for getting me a new toothbrush. And that would have been the end of it. But no. He just can't seem to treat me kindly. So yeah, I could have persisted and told him. But his seemingly irrational anger made me feel some sort of way and I just felt like, F you, enjoy your toilet toothbrush. I grew up in a very conservative country where I couldn't openly come out as a bi/lesbian. There was one guy that I was actually attracted to back in high school and him and I dated for a brief period of time. About 2 months into the relationship I had found out that he was cheating on me with a mutual friend. I would later come to find out that he cheated on me multiple times with different people and it had started only a month into the relationship. I was very upset when I found out about it because he was one of the very few men that I was interested in. At the time I still didn't have a great understanding of love and relationships. I decided not to say anything about it when I found out. Now where I came from, it wasn't common to be openly bisexual or gay. The woman he dated before me was one of the very few people in my inner/outer circle who was openly bisexual. She had come from the States and was a lot more liberal. She broke his heart and I don't think he ever got over it. One time when we were at a party, I met her and we clicked. I told her that I was curious and wanted to explore my sexuality. We got closer over the course of the next 3 weeks. Eventually we slept together and that was a huge turning point for me. I knew I couldn't continue the relationship with him so I decided to tell him. He was absolutely furious. The look on his face was worth every day that I waited not confronting him about the cheating. The sad thing is, he was more upset that his ex would do that to him over the fact that I cheated on him. I never went back to men after this.